Welcome to the Practical Worship Blog, your source for ideas, tips, and practical advice for the everyday worship leader. And we're going to start a series today called Sequences, and we're going to talk about incorporating sequences into our worship set. Some people call this running tracks. Some people call this using loops. It's all the same idea in that you have live musicians on stage playing parts, and then you supplement additional parts that are pre-recorded, and you put it all together, and you get this sound that is bigger and fuller. To kind of give you a little bit of an idea, if you take a song that you've heard on the radio and you wanted to reproduce that sound, if you actually went into the studio and had access to the multi-track sounds and all the different parts that made up that song, you'd notice that there, besides the drums and the bass guitar, maybe an acoustic and vocals and stuff like that, there's probably 3 to 5 electric guitar parts. There's probably 2 to 3 keyboard parts. There might be some percussion, some tambourines and shakers and stuff like that. And all these things come together to make that really big sound that you hear on the radio. But then when you try to reproduce it live, when you only have one guitar player or 2 guitar players and a keyboard player, it doesn't sound as full. And so that's why. So instead of having, 3 or 5 guitar players on stage, which you probably don't have the resources to do, and you probably don't have the space on your stage to do something like that, this is another way to do that. And you run these sequences in addition to what's happening live, and it comes together and it creates this really nice full sound. So in this video, in part 1, we're going to talk about creation. We're going to talk about actually making the tracks. And then in part 2, we'll talk about execution and the software that I use to actually execute the tracks on a Sunday morning. And then in part 3, I'll show you how I get in between the two, because the software that I use for creation is not the same software that I use for execution. So this right here is GarageBand. It's a free program that is on most Macs, and if it's not on your Mac, you can get it from the Mac store for I think like $15, $20, something like that. And for a program that's about $20, this is really, really powerful and really easy to use. In fact, I actually have Logic, which is the big brother to GarageBand that Apple has, and Logic is really, really powerful, and a lot of people are cutting records with Logic, and it has its place, but for me as a creative person, I just don't like it. It's just it's not intuitive to me. The technology, I guess what I'm trying to say with GarageBand, and I'm a technology guy. I love all the gadgets and everything else. I geek out on stuff like that. But when I'm trying to be creative, I want all that stuff just to go away, and I want it to be intuitive, and I just want to do it and not think about it. And GarageBand for me does that. And the sounds in it, the instruments that it has in there are really, really good. And a lot of the refill packs that you can get for Logic also work in GarageBand. A lot of the effects, things like auto-tune and Waves plugins and stuff like that, all that stuff works in GarageBand. So it's my program of choice, and it's really easy to use. Another great program that you might look into is a program called Reason by Propellerhead. A lot of people use it. Has great sounds, has great refill packs you can use, good effects and stuff like that. A lot of loops and stuff like that are made in Reason. But you might be a Cubase guy. You might be an Ableton Live guy. You might be a Fruity Loops guy. It doesn't matter. Whatever program of choice you use, whatever helps you to be creative, use that. I use GarageBand, and that's what I'm going to show you this morning. Now, the main trick for me when I am creating a track, when I'm creating a sequence that I'm going to use on a Sunday morning, the biggest trick for me is to create an entire sequence of, as complete as possible, where the entire thing sounds like a song, even though I am sequencing and I'm creating parts that eventually I'm going to toss away and not use because that person is actually on the stage playing that part. The problem is, if you let's say we're going to create a track and we're going to bring in an extra guitar part and an extra keyboard part and a percussion part. If you just create those 3 parts, how do you mix that? There's no context. So let's say you do that and you accidentally create or you make the electric guitar part too loud. Well, your sound man can't pull all that stuff apart. So if your electric part's too loud, the whole thing has to come down, and now your tambourine part and your keyboard part is too soft, and it doesn't work. So in this context, you are creating a complete product, and then you start taking things away. So in fact, I'll play this track for you. This is a version of Blessed Be Your Name that we did one morning, and we kind of gave it this Hillsong Freedom is Here vibe, and check this out.
Shout for joy to the Lord.
And what we had going on here is this was how we opened up the service, and we had a video that was running that was doing this Psalm 100 thing. It was an After Effects video with all these the words moving around and stuff like that. So this is the audio track from that.
We are His.
We are His people,
the sheep of His pasture.
Enter His gates with thanksgiving,
in His courts with praise.
Give thanks to Him and praise His name.
Praise His name.
For the Lord is good.
For the Lord is good.
And His love
endures forever.
His love
endures forever.
Now this is probably the most complete track I've made. This one has a scratch vocal in it. I normally do like a keyboard bass. This actually has a real bass in it. It's got everything in there. The only thing it's missing is the lead guitar part. So here's the deal. This is a complete track, right? But I have a drummer, so we mute that. So I mute that. There it goes. Oh, it's going to turn off. I have so many things going on. There we go. And we're going to turn off the bass because I have a bass player. We're going to turn off the acoustic guitar player because I have an acoustic guitar player. Obviously, I have a singer. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And I actually have background singers too, so we're going to tune all those off. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And so what we have here, now that it's all muted, my computer's running a little slow, sorry about that. This is the track that I'd actually send to the sound man. And I know it's mixed all well because I mixed it in context of a complete song. All these parts are here. I'll turn them all back on. And since we mixed it all together, we know that it all works together. You're building a puzzle, and then you take some of the pieces away, and then on a Sunday morning you start putting those pieces back together, and then you take what you have in this track and it all comes together, and you can recreate what's going on. And I'll show you a couple things too. Notice that my drum parts aren't there's like no fills or anything like that. It's pretty much just basic kick and snare patterns. Normally I do keyboard bass. This particular track actually has an honest to goodness bass part on it. I normally don't do that. And then I was going to show you this guitar part too, how I do guitar parts. Here is how this works. That's actually a loop that I had a guitar player do. Let me grab this. We'll copy it. Let's go to the beginning just so I can show you this. It's kind of a trick I've picked up along the way. This is a loop where in the key of G, he plays every chord. He's going to play G, then he's going to play an A minor, and then he's going to play a G over a B, and then he's going to play a C, and then he plays a D, and he plays a D sus. And then I can chop that up, and what you get is this. Now for you, it might just be easy enough just to grab an acoustic guitar, plug it into your computer, and cut the track. For me, I typically make my sequences at night when the kids are sleeping, and so I can put the headphones on and they don't hear a thing, and it works really, really good for me. So whatever works for you, but I thought I'd show you that trick. So you put all that stuff together, and now we have a track that we can send or we can put together and we can use on a Sunday morning. And we put all the pieces together once we have all that stuff together, and we make a really, really full sound. So in the next video, we're going to talk about execution and the software that I use, a program called Ableton Live, and I'll show you how I put all that together and how I use that to trigger in a live situation. So my name's Dave, and for more great information on this and other topics, check out practicalworshipblog.com. And besides being here on YouTube, we're also on Twitter and on Facebook, so check us out there. Thank you so much for watching.